Superman's getting more and more popular, so haven't you been curious what has happened to Superman in the comic books recently? Where do you start reading them? How are these events all related? Well, let's tell you the entire timeline of Superman since the New 52. In the New 52, the DC Universe was rebooted. While Batman and Green Lantern and a few others didn't lose their entire history, Superman was one of the ones that was reset. Gone was his post-Flashpoint marriage to Lois Lane and the likes of his death and resurrection. In this new Superman series, written by Grant Morrison, beginning in the Superman vs. the City of Tomorrow series, we see a younger Superman starting out and trying to become the hero that the world would grow to love. But this is a much less powerful Superman, one who was only able to leap tall buildings in a single bound and still unable to fly. This is also a Superman that is yet to earn the world's trust, and instead is looked at with suspicion. Time passes and Superman grows stronger, bringing out the likes of Lex Luthor and General Lane, who don't trust this super being. But the people of Metropolis are also beginning to stand against Superman, causing him to not only lose his faith in humanity, but also the idea of becoming Superman. However, Superman must stand against the likes of Brainiac, who arrives to invade the city while fighting against the likes of Metallo. He manages to defeat Brainiac, but can't stop him from bottling a portion of the city. He's also aided by the armored John Henry, who goes by the name Steel. In this timeline, Superman would also become one of the founding members of the Justice League after the group had come together to stop the invasion of Darkseid. Superman was then captured by Darkseid, but then freed by Batman, and finally the team would work together to save the Earth. Over in Action Comics, we jumped forward to present-day Superman. Someone is investigating Clark Kent's identity, and Clark decides that he's going to fake his own death to hide his true origins. Taking up the identity of Johnny Clark, he decides to become a firefighter, but during a battle with an alien known as Captain Comet, Johnny is also believed to be dead. Clark is unsure of what he should do next, but he's then approached by his landlady, Mrs. Nixley, who reveals that she is in fact from the fifth dimension and uses her powers to make everyone forget about Clark Kent's death. After helping Clark, she reveals that all of the bad things that have happened in his life are because of Lord Vintix from the fifth dimension, who has actually attacked Clark multiple times. He just can't remember it. When Lord Vintix attacks with his anti-Superman army, Superman manages to use a psychic link to make everyone on Earth say their names backwards. This causes Vintix to retreat to the fifth dimension, thus defeating him. Over in the Superman comics, Superman meets up with another survivor of Krypton, the clone Hel, who hates clones and is unaware that he is a clone. Hel tries to recruit Superman into helping him travel back in time to stop the destruction of Krypton. But when Superman learns that this will actually end up destroying Earth's solar system, he stops Hel with the aid of the Justice League and Superboy. Following this, Superman was seen in the Unchained event, which saw Superman and Lois Lane investigating a government agency known as Ascension. Superman meets with another alien known as Wraith, who has similar powers to his own. Wraith manages to teach Superman how to use his powers in different ways as they fight against Ascension, but Superman is betrayed by Wraith, whose species is about to invade Earth. Lex Luthor offers Superman a weapon that could defeat the invasion, though it would kill him in the process, but Wraith redeems himself by using the weapon to save Earth. Following this, Superman meets the Oracle, learning that Hel survived their last battle and managed to change history and save Krypton. But this could destroy the entire timeline, so Superman has to go back in time and stop him. Going back to Krypton, Superman meets his mother and sees her tell Jor-El that she is pregnant. Later, they must team up with Jor-El from the alternate future that Hel created. Teaming up with Jor-El, Kara, and Superboy, they manage to stop Hel by freezing him in limbo, but Superboy is killed in the process. Back on Earth, Superman takes part in the Trinity War event. It's in this event that Pandora asks the various heroes of the world to open Pandora's box, hoping that their virtue will allow it to unleash good things upon the world. But this merely causes the various heroes to fight against each other over the best method of using the box. Following this, we lead into the Forever Evil event, which saw the crime syndicate come from Earth 3 and defeat the Justice League, locking them in the Firestorm Matrix. But Lex Luthor teamed up with Batman and a group of supervillains to defeat the crime syndicate and release the Justice League. Afterwards, Lex would go on to become a member of the Justice League. Then we have the event Superman Doomed. In this event, Superman discovers that Doomsday is releasing a toxin while rampaging across the world. Superman tears Doomsday in half, breathing in the toxin, infecting himself. He's then quarantined, but is needed and released. During the fight, Superman is overtaken by the infection, going on a murderous rampage. Wonder Woman decides to take Superman into space until they can cure him. He tries to help some aliens, but ends up killing most of them. In space, he also learns of Brainiac's plan to invade the Earth with the aid of cyborg Superman. So, Superman returns to the Earth to help his friends fight off Brainiac, but is completely overtaken by the infection. After Brainiac is defeated, his technology is then used to cure Superman. This brings us to the Men of Tomorrow story arc, where Superman meets with Ulysses, who has been sent to the fourth dimension by his parents to save him from an earthquake. Believing that he was the only survivor of Earth, the superhuman is surprised when he finds his world is safe. The two then work together to fight against a villain known as the Machinist, but Ulysses eventually turns on Superman when he reveals that he wants to bring millions of people to his new world to protect them from Earth's doom. Superman stops him and learns a brand new power that he calls Solar Flare. Using Solar Flare, he defeats Ulysses, but it leaves him powerless for several days. When Clark goes back to work at the Daily Planet, he's then given tips by someone named Hordor. Clark uses these tips to stop crimes as Superman, but it's later revealed that Hordor knows his identity and begins to blackmail him. Superman goes after Hordor, using his Solar Flare to defeat them, revealing his secret identity to Lois Lane in the process, but the leader of Hordor survives and continues to blackmail Clark. Lois decides to take away Hordor's leverage and reveals Clark's identity to the world. During another battle with Hordor, Clark is then infected with a strange substance that weakens his powers. With his secret identity out and his powers now weakened, Clark reverts to his t-shirt and jeans look while trying to protect his city. It is then revealed that Hordor is actually controlled by Vandal Savage, who had taken control of the Stormwatch satellite, capturing the Justice League and stealing the Fortress of Solitude. Aided by John Henry, Clark is given a kryptonite-powered battlesuit, leading the Justice League united against Savage. During the battle, Superman manages to free his friends before getting knocked into the Fortress of Solitude, and there he is healed by Kryptonian technology, and he becomes Superman once again. Powerful once more, Superman finally confronts Savage, who offers him a place at his side in ruling the Earth, but Superman refuses, throwing Savage and the comet that gives him his power into the vastness of space. Over in the Darkseid War event, which came up next, Superman and Lex Luthor and the other members of the Justice League tried to prevent a war between Darkseid and the Anti-Monitor. During the event, Superman and Lex are trapped on Apokolips together. It's there that they must work together as Superman quickly weakens it. Trying to help him, Lex throws Superman into one of the fire pits, hoping that it will power him up. But instead, it has a strange effect, and Superman becomes the god of power. He abandons Lex on the planet, returning to Earth. It's there that he confronts the Anti-Monitor and blasts him with the dark energy stored in his body, returning him to his normal state. The war is then stopped, but it is later revealed that all of the Apokolips energy that Superman took in is killing him. Now we go to the Convergence event, and things get confusing. Here it's revealed that the Lois and Clark from the pre-Flashpoint timeline were actually abducted and placed into one of the doomed cities. During this time, because Superman had no powers, Lois became pregnant. After the Convergence event, it's discovered that Lois and Clark, along with their son, John Kent, had been left on Earth Zero, the main Earth. The New 52 Superman, the one that we've been following at the beginning of the storyline, now dying, is trying to find someone to take over as Superman, but also tells Lois the truth, asking her to reveal his identity to the world after his death. Superman drains the last of his power, fighting and defeating the Energy Superman with his Solar Flare. During this fight, the pre-Flashpoint Superman revealed himself to the rest of the Justice League. And with his final breath, the New 52 Superman asked the pre-Flashpoint Superman to take over once he is gone. Now, at the start of the DC Rebirth event, the pre-Flashpoint Superman has taken over. The rest of the heroes don't trust him, and the world has learned of Clark Kent's secret identity. But they are confused when another Clark Kent is actually saved by Superman. It's quickly revealed that this is the work of Mr. Mxyzptlk, who has been imprisoned by a being known as Mr. Oz. Mxyzptlk reveals that the New 52 Superman and the pre-Flashpoint Superman are two halves of one Superman. And using his powers, he combines the histories of New 52 Lois and Clark with pre-Flashpoint Lois and Clark. This ultimately fixed a lot of problems that fans had with the character since the beginning in the New 52, restoring their history in the most convoluted way as possible. This aligned the New 52 Superman with the pre-Flashpoint history and made large portions of the New 52 history of the character null and void. But what we got out of it was that Lois and Clark are married again, John Kent Superboy is a thing, and everyone now trusts and remembers Superman. Everyone's happy. Oh, and the world doesn't know that Clark is Superman yet. So you're probably asking, Benny, why don't you tell us the history of the pre-Flashpoint Superman? Well, I would if it was important. You see, none of it matters. None of it comes up, and they're basically just doing this as a way to get Superman and Lois married again, and they have a son immediately without even worrying about a story route there. So, now that the timeline is back to normal, Lois and Clark prepare to move back to Metropolis from the rural farm that they were hiding on. But Hank Henshaw returns, transforming himself back into Cyborg Superman again. Gathering a group known as the Superman Revenge Squad, Superman is forced to fight against the villains, but is aided by the rest of the Super family. After defeating Henshaw, Superman locks him away in the Phantom Zone. With their lives finally getting back to normal, Superman is racing around the planet, stopping several natural disasters, and it's here that he learns that this is the work of the mysterious Mr. Oz. Mr. Oz, remember, is the individual that imprisoned Mxyzptlk. Now, Oz reveals himself to be Jor-El, who was rescued from Krypton in the last moments by a mysterious power. He's brought to Earth where he witnessed humanity's darker impulses and decided that he had made a mistake by sending his son Kal-El there. Refusing to turn his back on humanity, Superman fights against Mr. Oz, breaking his staff and discovering that the staff was actually controlling Jor-El's mind. Before he can save his father, Jor-El is teleported away by the mysterious power that originally saved him. Deciding that he needs to know if Oz is actually his father, Superman uses the cosmic treadmill to go back to Krypton before it explodes. But he runs into Booster Gold and Skeets, who explain that Superman coming back in time has altered Krypton's history, so they have begun evacuating the planet before it explodes. After fixing the timeline, Superman uses Booster's time sphere to see Jor-El the moment before Krypton is destroyed, and he watches as his father disappears in a blue light, confirming what Mr. Oz told him to be true. That a mysterious power saved him right before he died. Using the time sphere, Superman returns to his own timeline just as the Dark Knight Metal event begins. Now, Superman wasn't too big of a deal in the Dark Knight Metal event outside of the fact that he was involved in it and did a lot of the fighting. So after the events of Dark Knight's Metal, the defeat of Barbados and the evil Batman caused the Source Wall to shatter. Superman and the other members of the Justice League were forced to help Brainiac, whose planet was under attack by the Omega Titans, who had been awakened by the Source Wall breaking. After the League saved Kolu, the Omega Titans eventually attacked Earth, led there by Brainiac. But the League defeated them once and for all. In the Superman books, Superman has now returned to Metropolis, where he is honored for his years of protecting the city. Mr. Oz does return, asking to take John into space so that he can teach his grandson about Krypton's history. While Superman doesn't like the idea, John wanted to go with his grandfather, and Lois decided to accompany them. After his family left, Superman discovered that somebody broke into the Fortress of Solitude, smashing the bottled city of Kandor. Working with Supergirl, they tracked down the alien known as Rogal Zar, who claims that he is the one who actually destroyed Krypton, and that it is his mission to wipe out all traces of Krypton from the universe. Superman and Supergirl are able to defeat the alien, trapping him in the Phantom Zone. And afterwards, Supergirl decides to head into space to learn more about the mysterious Rogal Zar. With Kandor destroyed, Superman isn't able to communicate with Lois and John anymore. So Superman creates a new Fortress of Solitude while also thinking about taking a leadership role on a global scale. But he discovers that the Earth has been accidentally transported into the Phantom Zone by Star Labs. While Star Labs is restoring Earth, Superman is forced to fight against Rogal Zar again. Now weakened with a lack of a yellow sun, Superman is almost defeated, but he's saved by General Zod of all people, who also wants revenge on Zal for destroying Krypton. Superman eventually is saved by Star Labs and brought back to Earth, leaving Zar and Zod to continue their battle. Meanwhile, John and Lois return to Earth, but Clark is shocked to learn that John has aged 7 years in the time that he's been gone. The reunion is then cut short by Rogal Zar attacking once more, now working alongside General Zod. The Super Family works together to take down the two criminals, finally defeating them. And afterwards, Jor-El and Kal-El return to Krypton, hoping to find clues about Rogal Zar's past. While there, Jor-El reveals that he was a part of a secret intergalactic group that secretly ruled the galaxy. He hoped that the group would help him save Krypton, but it did not. Once he returns to Earth, Clark learns that John has been offered a spot on the Legion of Superheroes, though his son hasn't decided what to do just yet. Jor-El has also returned to Krypton moments after he was teleported away so that he could die as he was meant to. Superman is then approached by General Zod and his family, who have decided on a new Krypton so that their race can live on. They even offer the House of El a spot in this world. At this time, the United Planets was established, as Superman revealed his secret identity to the world. Again. But the Earth has had mixed feelings on learning this, and Superman is forced to protect the United Planets from Mongul. After defeating Mongul, Superman is elected by Earth to be their representative on a galactic scale. While Superman tried to represent his adopted planet, he was then approached by Isno Alcor, who was inspired by Superman to bring his planet onto the galactic stage by using his superpowers to conquer it. Obviously, this doesn't sit well with Superman, so he works with the United Planets and Sinmar Resistance to defeat Isno Alcor and bring freedom back to that planet. Over in the Justice League comics, a strange object known as the Totality crash lands on Earth. When Martian Manhunter and Superman go to investigate, since they are the only ones powerful enough to withstand the Totality's energy, Batman decides to shrink down and go into Superman's body so that he can study the object. But what they learn is that Lex has also shrunk down and is in Superman's body, and he takes control of Superman's body, stealing the Totality before he releases his control on Superman. The Justice League decides that they need to hunt down the Legion of Doom, but they're approached by Starman, who warns them of Perpetua and the fate of the universe. Traveling back to the Source Wall, the League hopes to repair it, but they're attacked by Brainiac and the Legion of Doom, who fully destroy the Source Wall and release Perpetua into the universe. Next, the Justice League is contacted by Mr. Mxyzptlk in hopes that he could open them a portal to the 6th dimension so that they could lock away Perpetua. Mxyzptlk agrees, but tells them that only Superman is strong enough to see what is in the 6th dimension. Superman agrees to make the journey, returning to tell the others what he finds. Stepping through the portal, he finds himself on a strange world that has no stars. His powers dwindle as he tries to survive on the world, eventually discovering an older version of himself. This older version claims that he is the reason that Superman is trapped there and easily defeats him, leaving Superman stranded. Trapped, Superman eventually gains enough power from a dying star to escape the planet, but he finds himself adrift in the void of space. But Superman eventually arrives in a place that has thousands of suns and is overcharged. He manages to break through the 6th dimension, where he discovers that the older Superman has been lying to the Justice League. This older Superman is revealed to be Alphys, the brother of the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor. Superman easily defeats Alphys, and the League asks him to help them defeat Perpetua. The heroes of Earth prepare for their war against Perpetua, and the Legion of Doom save the very multiverse itself. Now, the Death Metal event takes place, which sees the multiverse destroyed and reborn. This is mainly a Wonder Woman-centric event, but just know that Superman kind of dies, but comes back to life after the rebirth of the multiverse in Earth Prime. With the world destroyed, Superman faces aliens from the Breach, which exposes him to a strange radiation that weakens him. Realizing that the world is still in need of protection after he dies, forgetting all of those other superheroes and how apparently they're not important to Superman, Superman decides to gather a team together and call them the Authority. The Authority is called into action when a ship crash lands on Earth. This ship is filled with Kryptonian refugees from Warworld that have been enslaved since long before the destruction of Krypton. Superman and the Authority travel to Warworld to free the rest of the slaves, but Superman is easily captured as Mongul has laid a trap for him. Warworld is bathed in red sunlight, so Superman loses his powers. Enslaved, he is forced to fight in Warworld's gladiator arena. It's here that he earns the name the Unbloodied Sword because of his refusal to kill. Eventually, Superman regains his powers from the cosmic energy that powers Warworld and leads a slave uprising against Mongul alongside the other members of the Authority. Superman searches for the Fire of Ulgron, which is in the depths of Warworld and is supposedly powerful enough to defeat Mongul. So he finds the fire, offering it to a young Osul, a young Kryptonian slave that Superman became a father figure to, along with his twin sister. These two are going to become important. The rebels also changed the red solar batteries of the planet to emit white solar energy. This fully restores Superman's power and cures him of the radiation that was killing him. With Mongul defeated and Warworld free, Superman then returns to Earth. He pleads with the United Nations to take the refugees from Warworld in. But his peaceful time on Earth will not last, as the Justice League must now defeat Pariah and the Dark Multiverse. This sees the Justice League members placed into their own ideal Earths. Though Superman was happy for a time, he realized that his world wasn't real. He escaped along with the other heroes, returning to Earth in time to fight against Pariah's dark army. Superman arrived just in time to save his son, John Kent, from being killed by Doomsday. After the Dark Crisis is averted, the Justice League decides that they need to disband, as they're causing more harm than good at this point, and they want to allow the Titans to take over as the premier super team on Earth. Shortly after the crisis, Superman returns to Metropolis to be more of a friendly neighborhood Superman. But Lex Luthor, who is now in prison, has decided that his constant war against Superman is doing more harm than good, and he believes that he should be helping the Man of Steel protect their city of Metropolis and the planet of Earth. So Lex initiates Project Blackout. It combines various tech, magic, and the powers of Manchester Black to erase the world's memory of both Clark and John Kent's secret identities. But this has consequences. As Clark is talking to Perry White at the moment that the blackout took effect, Perry's mind couldn't cope with what he was seeing and he had a heart attack. Superman confronted Lex and learned that Project Blackout killed Manchester Black. Furious, Superman defeats Luthor and puts him into prison. Superman would then later learn that some people still remember his secret identity, and Batman suggests that he use this as a second chance for his family's safety and for them to have a relatively normal life. In Action Comics, Superman returns to Metropolis. Lois and Clark decide to adopt the super twins, Osul and Otho, and Superman begins to work more closely with the super family as a whole. Together, they defend the city from Metallo, who has begun to rampage alongside his Necro drones. Superman defeats Metallo, who reveals that his sister has been kidnapped and that he was following the orders of the kidnapper to keep her safe. Superman believes that this is the work of Luthor from prison, but Luthor informs him that he had nothing to do with it. Superman can sense that Lex Luthor is telling the truth. Following this, Lex reveals that in his effort to help Superman protect Metropolis and the world, he signed over control of LexCorp to Superman and renamed it to Supercorp. Superman now has Mercy Graves and the entire building of scientists aiding him. Superman must use all of his new resources to fight against the likes of a mutated parasite and Livewire in rapid succession, revealing that someone has been controlling them. When Superman fights against a villain known as the Chained, a powerful being who Lex locked away for the safety of Metropolis, Superman learns that his true enemies are Dr. Farm and Graft, who are on a mission of revenge against Lex Luthor for what he stole from them, and the lives that he's destroyed. Superman works alongside the Super Family, Supercorp, and Lex to finally stop Farm and Graft and their Lex Luthor Revenge Squad, which is revealed to also include Lex's mother, who hates her son for stealing the company from her. With the villains defeated, Superman finally has a moment of peace. But this peace doesn't last, as somewhere in the vastness of space, Brainiac's ship has begun heading towards Earth. So this catches you all the way up to the House of Brainiac event starting in April 2024. As with Batman, this is a lot of the core plot lines that is Superman, but there are side stories and other things that could or could not be within the overall continuity. But these are the important bits that do come up in the reoccurring storyline that is Superman. Superman, unlike Batman, had a lot more kind of cold starts where he would go back to Metropolis and start over and then lose his powers again, as you can tell. But all of it is still in canon and still active, so take it for what you want. Let me know in the comments down below what superhero we should cover next, and if you missed our recap on Batman, check that one out down below. I hope you guys are enjoying this new format here at Comicstorian, and I'm hoping to bring you one of these on a every other week basis. Thank you, and have a good one.